time of Mesopotamia.
The city of Mohenjo-Daro rivaled the ancient civilizations in Egypt and Mesopotamia. Archaeologists believe that over 35,000 people once occupied the city. However, only 43 skeletons have been discovered at the site. There are many theories surrounding the mysterious disappearance of the Indus people from Mohenjo-Daro. In 1977, British researcher David Davenport discovered that part of the archaeological site showed evidence of having been destroyed by an extremely powerful explosion.
He found what remains of the blast, and he believed that this area was the epicenter of something that he believed was an explosion that destroyed a part of the city, and he found the evidence of vitrified pottery that were totally fused, melted, or vitrified.
Scholars claim that several calcified skeletons found at the site suggest they suffered an instantaneous death.
In Mohenjo-Daro, they found bodies, arm in arm, skeletons, arm in arm, that had been vitrified, virtually vitrified.
For years, restricted access to the site has prevented scientists from analyzing the vitrified ruins. But in 2014, mineralogist Dr. Sam Iyengar was able to obtain a piece of fused pottery from Mohenjo-Daro and put it through a series of tests.
When I did the elemental analysis, it showed me that the Mohenjo-Daro rock contained mostly silicon, aluminum with some calcium and potassium. So my thought was maybe it could be some type of a clay, till I did the X-ray diffraction.
X-ray diffraction is able to determine exactly how a material was formed.
When I did the X-ray powder diffraction, this is the pattern I got. And you can see some crystal
That's the signal light, that's not exist on your GY figure not. Another one, oh fucking GY oh, 真的给我 signal 了咩 GY works what? Fucking hell 毒咧真的
very, very high temperature. I'm talking 4,000 to 5,000
GY selective signaling 咧真的
something.
What is this kind of dog shit?
Can do it intentionally. It has to be something supernatural.
Could this pottery sample, which shows irrefutable evidence of having been subjected to extreme heat, be definitive evidence that Mohenjo-Daro really was the site of some type of powerful explosion in the ancient past? David Davenport and other researchers of India's ancient Vedic texts have suggested that this is the case, and that Mohenjo-Daro may in fact be the kingdom of Lanka, a city whose destruction is detailed in the Indian epic known as the Ramayana. In the Ramayana, it is described that the god Vishnu decides the leader of Lanka, a mortal named Ravana, is grown too powerful. Vishnu takes
using advanced technology.
I happen to believe that mankind possessed incredible technology, incredible knowledge, and that they did things that we're doing right now, and then something happened. And they had to literally start all over again. Whoever got involved said, that's not going to happen. Let's let them have knowledge, but not too much knowledge. And I think that's probably what's happening here.
Is it possible that the vitrified ruins at Mohenjo-Daro are evidence that humans were in possession of advanced technology thousands of years ago? And does this suggest that extraterrestrial beings intervened in the affairs of mankind to prevent the exploitation of these weapons? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest further proof can be found by examining the ancient world's greatest repository of knowledge and how it came to be destroyed. Egypt, 391 AD. The Great Library of Alexandria, which houses perhaps the most extensive collection of knowledge in the ancient world, is set aflame. It is burned by decree of Emperor Theodosius I, who has deemed many of the works contained at the library unorthodox and heretical. Built by the Egyptians in the 3rd century BC, the Library of Alexandria was said to contain as many as 1 million scrolls on a wide variety of topics, including astronomy, mathematics, physics, medicine, and philosophy.
The library at Alexandria was the greatest library of the ancient world. Thousands and thousands of scrolls, all of the ancient science, all of the ancient wisdom, the occult lore, the literature. But as regimes changed, there was a fear that perhaps there were heresies in those volumes.
As Christianity grew and became a more powerful religion, they began to see some of the learning that was part of ancient civilization as evil. So all of the astronomy, all of the technological knowledge, all of the philosophy had to be destroyed.
There was ancient technologies that were lost. We know this from modern historical record. Technologies working with systems like magnetism, crystals, energy, like the Ark of the Covenant. We know these things existed, but we don't know what was the nature of their existence.
Some of those books were the history of our planet, going back to 100,000 years even. So when these books were all destroyed, it was a way of setting the knowledge back to zero.
Of the volumes once held by the vast library, researchers have estimated that 95% of the knowledge that was recorded there was incinerated, plunging humanity back thousands of years in its evolution. But why? Was the Library of Alexandria burned down simply because the Catholic Church considered some of its contents to be heretical? Ancient astronaut theorists suggest there may have been another, perhaps extraterrestrial, agenda behind its destruction. According to an official NASA document published in 2007, titled Unidentified Flying Objects in Classical Antiquity, there were a remarkable number of mysterious encounters during the rise and fall of the Roman Empire.
They didn't use the term UFO or flying saucer back in the times of the Romans and the Greeks, but they spoke about things like sky armies, shields, ships. I mean, this is history.
There's a very interesting report by Cicero. And what that was is that there was a sphere in the sky, which then divided into smaller spheres. This reflects the classic UFO reports that we get today, where there's just one big object, usually a sphere, and then suddenly
was just one of over 100 unexplained sightings recorded during the Roman Empire.
There's one remarkable story after another in the Roman Empire of the appearance of spaceships. They're influencing battles, and it leaves the appearance that these extraterrestrial beings had a direct bearing on the outcome of some of these battles and these wars.
Of all the unexplained sightings, the most famous was reported by Emperor Constantine the Great on October 27th, 312 AD, at the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, which would win him the throne and change Western civilization forever.
The real moment of truth for Constantine came when he was engaged in the midst of a great battle. He claimed to have seen a cross appear in the sky over the battlefield. At that point, he made a vow to Christ that if he won the battle, he would convert to Christianity for good, and he would make Christianity the state religion of the Roman Empire.
The vision of Constantine was extremely significant. They thought it was some kind of message: fight this battle and establish this form of Christianity.
Shortly after Constantine became Emperor of Rome, religious wars broke out between the Christians, Jews, and pagans. It was during these wars that the first attacks were made on the Library of Alexandria, ultimately leading to its total destruction in 391 AD. And according to some ancient astronaut theorists, this was done at the direction of those extraterrestrial beings that were responsible for Constantine's vision at the Milvian Bridge.
The Roman Empire, in many ways, was ahead of its time. Now, was this something that caught the attention of intelligent extraterrestrials? Did it give them cause for concern? Were these UFO sightings at the time of the Roman Empire a monitoring process, and maybe humanity was just pegged back a little bit?
Is it possible the alleged UFO sightings throughout the Roman Empire indicate that there is an extraterrestrial agenda to hold back the progress of humanity? Or might there be an even more incredible explanation? Some ancient astronaut theorists claim there may not be just one alien agenda, but several. Washington, D.C. After 5 days of expert testimony at the citizen hearing on disclosure, astounding claims regarding extraterrestrial involvement with the human race were shared with former members of Congress. Among the most inflammatory is the assertion from former Canadian Defense Minister Paul Hellyer that we are not being visited by just one alien faction, but several.
At least 4 species have been visiting Earth for thousands of years. They are different species and consequently may have different agendas.
The thing about Paul Hellyer is the level of detail that he goes down to: numbers of civilizations, alien agendas. This is not some maverick UFO researcher. This is a politician still deeply connected. He has a number of extremely high-level government and military and intelligence community sources.
Is it possible the government has been covering up the presence of otherworldly beings here on Earth? And could there, in fact, be more than one agenda? Ancient astronaut theorists claim that not only do different extraterrestrial agendas exist, 1992. British archaeologist Sir Leonard Woolley and his team uncover the ancient Sumerian city of Ur and discover numerous clay tablets containing fantastic tales of gods interacting with humans.
We have these cuneiform tablets carved into clay with a primitive stylus, but the stories they tell, the Sumerian mythology of the Anunnaki, those who from heaven to earth came, are so intricate and fascinating.
After studying the tablets for nearly 50 years, preeminent Mesopotamian historian Thorkild Jacobson publishes Treasures of Darkness, a book outlining the governing structure of Sumerian gods called the Anunnaki.
Thorkild Jacobson
therefore it is they who influence nations to go to war and to fight.
We're guiding them.
There are beings that are said to manipulate segments of humanity so as to express their own agendas, and therefore it is they who influence nations to go to war and to fight for their purposes and their agendas.
Is it really possible that Adolf Hitler was in contact with a race of extraterrestrials he called Supermen? While the authenticity of Hermann Rauschning's accounts are widely questioned, ancient astronaut theorists propose that extraterrestrials may have had a particular interest in the quest of Hitler to obtain superweapons, lost knowledge, and artifacts of the ancestral gods.
The Nazis embarked on a quest for so-called Wunderwaffe, wonder weapons. And the Nazis were after not just making the atomic bomb, which they clearly were working toward, but guided missiles, and even something called the Sun Gun, which actually involved plans for some sort of space station, and then effectively directed energy weapon down to the surface of the Earth. Many people now speculate that extraterrestrials were watching humanity engaged in this cataclysmic conflict. The theory was that this was war on a totally new scale, and that it had attracted the attention of these alien visitors who were watching with concern human beings advancing so rapidly.
There are a ton of reports that date back to the Second World War where pilots reported the so-called Foo Fighters. And Foo Fighters are something that can be likened to modern-day UFOs. So that is very interesting because it shows to me that somehow extraterrestrials were interested in the outcome.
You have World War II with Hitler. Signs were really clear that we were now starting to enter a phase of our development where we are now going to have some pretty good technology. We're going to start understanding some of the weirder aspects of reality. That was the knowledge of the gods, perhaps, that they did not want us to have.
Is it possible that Hitler's quest for superweapons ultimately led to his downfall? Might an extraterrestrial faction have intervened to stop him before he went even further? Immediately following World War II, the United States military enlisted Nazi scientists to continue the development of weaponry, including rockets and nuclear bombs.
After World War II, much of the UFO activity around the world really stepped up considerably. There are stories of how UFOs would circle around nuclear weapon silos.
UFO sightings were reported at numerous U.S. Air Force bases with nuclear capabilities, including high-profile reports from the Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana and Minot Air Force Base in North Dakota. In 1980, there was a famous sighting of a disc-shaped object that hovered near a nuclear bomb storage depot in Suffolk, England, and emitted laser-like beams of light.
The sightings over the missile facilities at Maelstrom and Minot involved apparent shutdowns of the missiles. That is to say, it was alleged that the missiles were taken offline. Now, UFO believers think that we were being sent a message, and that the message was, we know what your nuclear arsenal is capable of, we are watching.
Are extraterrestrials monitoring nuclear facilities? Perhaps to ensure mankind with the introduction of an incredible new technology. Geneva, Switzerland, CERN headquarters. A multinational coalition of scientists are working to upgrade the Large Hadron Collider, the world's largest and most powerful atom smasher, which is capable of producing the energy of 70,000 atomic bombs. The Large Hadron Collider was key to the initial discovery of the Higgs boson, or God particle, a subatomic particle that many scientists believe exists for a fraction of a second before other particles get their mass, and the one missing piece of our present understanding of the laws of physics. For theoretical physicists, the find opens up new frontiers in science and technology, suggesting the possibility of anti-gravity, travel at the speed of light, teleportation, and even future military applications.
The Higgs particle is so new